So that's pretty much how resource types work. And just as a demonstration, we just find somewhere where this module is actually utilized to IPA auth. We have server install here done. Should be somewhere here though. Okay, these are debug parameters that I had. Yeah, so IPA admin login, which is the name for this particular. Yeah, so it's here. As you can see, it's been created, and this is just basically random output from the from the library when I was generally debugging in essence. So that's pretty much that for this initial configuration. So what we're gonna do is just to demo what this looks like when the actual configuration changes. Is that we're just gonna set that to absent, the IPA auth, and basically what that would do is basically we'll remove it from the system, which is something that we already. Actually, that buffer's gone. Yeah. Cool. So then here now, as you can see, the resource doesn't exist because we previously run this, and it would have just generally removed it. Though in this particular instance, you can see that the file is not present in the system because that's been set to absent. However, if we change that to present, we should then do the configuration again and provision everything as intended. So. Oh no, so if we just run provision, cool. So as you can see here, it's created the resource again. And the resource is now present in the system, and the IPA user commands should be able to run without general error. Just looking for those resources, which I can't seem to find it present. So admin login here. Interesting. So these are actually run for varying reasons. Still completed successfully. So I think because that they're present, it's not a major issue, though they're actually been provisioned, which is pretty. It should state. Okay, I think it's nothing to be majorly concerned about, that the resource is actually not reflecting in here, but we'll see what that configuration management can be, how that can in essence be resolved. So what we're going to do here is just walk through the IP manage configuration system, which is pretty straightforward in essence. It's nothing too complicated in one sense or another. So what we do is we are going to define the type. The type takes in varying parameters. Insurable just ensures that the ensure capabilities are present, which are defined here. So this ensure variable just needs to be present. And then what we do is we so once we define the type, IP manage user, we go forth and then we define the actual manage user provider for that particular type. We create a new object, IPA user.new, and that object is available to the actual function itself. And then what we do is we create a private method, and as before, you know, we do a number of housekeeping tasks such as user show, in order to ensure that the configuration works as specified or as intended. So we create user show, which then enables us to have that, in essence, capability regarding whether or not that particular resource exists and the actions that we would like to function in that particular resource. And all this is going to the client.rb file, which is here. So there was a bunch of things that I had to decide in relation to how to manage the variables between things, whether or not I want to use class instance variables and things of that nature, and all those things had to be factored in. However, this is the methodology that I found works best for this particular instance, though all those things can generally be improved at a later date. So basically what occurs here is that we have user show, user add, and user delete, and those are imported into our actual provider method. And so what we do is we check if the user exists. We run user show, this calls to the IPA server, and then checks to see whether the user exists. Then it either returns true or false based on the response, and then based on that it will either delete the user or it will create the user. And here what we're doing is just configuring and ensuring that the functions are, or that the data that's passed into the parameters are configured as appropriate, as generally intended. And then here we have add user when we do the user create methodology, which then enables us to have the parameters configured here as generally intended. So we do all the deletes and things of that nature, and then we update and create a new resource, but this resource still exists, so we can still access that particular variable in essence. And that's pretty much it in relation to the IPA user management section. There's a bunch of things that you can do here, and there's a bunch of extensions that you can actually perform, which I've put in the comments here. Pretty much add the session timeout, check, and things of that nature, and all those things are pretty much of relevance when it comes to working with this particular instance of things. However, overall I think that everything seems to generally function as intended regarding this. So what we can do, we can just go straight forwards and do a puppet. So here we have the user present, but if we set it to absent, you see that the configuration will still behave as generally intended, and we'll get the same similar intended outcome. Cool. Here you see that the user has been removed, and then if we set it to present again, you see that the user has been added in, and we can also just verify that from the UI interface. But the main thing that we can do so much things in regards to actually extending the capabilities. Firefox is being a bit weird in relation to, I wonder if you ever get this particular problem here, this is just generally due to the nature of how Firefox manages things. I'll try to see if the incognito browser makes any difference. Cool, and more. Wait. See, reused serial number. And to resolve this issue, all you have to do is go to preferences, see security, we're looking for certificates. view certificates, and then what we just got to do is just find that initial IPA configuration, or which would be quite difficult in a sense, because okay, well, we have the, we can just delete this, but I think it was complaining about the, there we go, we can just delete that. Okay, but I think it was complaining about the reused issue on serial. Yeah, so I think it's the issue that's the main. So just back to security and IPA. What would the cert actually be called is what we I can't seem to find. Should be a value in here for the CA cert when you accept the untrusted certificate issue. Cool. Can't find the server. And the IPA or what? Okay, we're gonna just skip that and then try see if we can use Chrome for this particular instance of things. So as you can see here, user created, user 2, and if we just log into the IPA UI here, cool, and then here we have user 1, user 2, and then what we're gonna do now is we're just gonna edit user 2 here. So we're just gonna set this here to absent, and then we're gonna rerun provision, and then what that should do is that should use the API to call out to IPA. Here you can see that user removed, ensure user removed, and then if we come to our UI here and then we just refresh the page, you see that user removed. We're going to refresh from here, and also you can see certificate details as well, just in general. It's a common name, certificate authority, O3HI. Okay, so basically that's pretty much it in essence in regards to how this functions and how the client is used within the actual provider to make sure that we're able to interact and dynamically create things as generally intended. And we could have alternative methods here, such as create certificate, and you could always easily edit and amend this to add extra functionality and extra private functions that may create a certificate for a user, as well as a bunch of other things. And it's just there to help you enable get extra functionality when working with IPA, because previously in this particular module there was a bash script here which I didn't really find too interesting from a general perspective, though it works really well. We can then take this and then put it into an API methodology, which then allows us to define those configurations using the general Puppet syntax, and enables us to expand that further to generally do more with it in essence. That's pretty much it in relation to working with Puppet and general dynamic configuration for infrastructure management. There's a bunch of things as well, such as that can always be taken into consideration, such as using the eval method here, but you can always look at the source code once I've shared that in essence. So that's pretty much that in regards to this general initial configuration and management process.